G'day, I'm Damo and welcome to Compnow's WWDC recap. From the keynote to the final session, we've compiled all the highlights that admins and IT need to know about, with a strong Mac and iPad focus, of course. Despite years of making AI-capable devices and weaving machine learning through all their OSs, the misperception that Apple was behind on AI was still prevalent. After last week's keynote, I doubt there's any confusion remaining. Apple Intelligence will be built into your iPhone, iPad and Mac to help you write, express yourself and get things done effortlessly, giving users all the benefits of LLMs, but in a uniquely Apple way. Let's do the how before the what and take a closer look at this part. Firstly, Apple Intelligence will utilize on-device models by default, meaning the majority of your usage stays between you and your device. If the on-device models need assistance for more complex requests, Apple now has private cloud compute. Using custom Apple silicon and a hardened operating system designed for privacy, Apple believes it is the most advanced security architecture ever deployed for cloud AI at scale. No one, not even Apple, will have access to PCC data in transit, at rest, or even during active processing. Compared to the often opaque or incomplete data policies offered by other cloud AI solutions, Apple has broken new ground in this increasingly important area. Should your request go further than even private cloud compute can handle, you'll have the option of using GPT-4o thanks to what appears to be a very tightly controlled partnership with OpenAI, with user privacy first and foremost. In addition to fee-free usage, this section of the keynote confirmed that usage originating from Apple Intelligence will not be viewable or accessible by OpenAI, not even for model training. And before each usage, you'll need to approve your data being shared. These protections are most definitely not included in the standard ChatGPT T's and C's. So now we know how safe Apple Intelligence is to use, what can we use it for? Let's start with Siri. Equipped with awareness of your personal context, the ability to take action in and across apps, and product knowledge about your device's features and settings, the first digital assistant will be able to assist you like never before. As a huge Siri user myself, I'm really looking forward to being able to correct myself mid-sentence when setting a timer or giving home automation commands. Siri's new abilities to get more done are going to be easy for developers to get on board with, and actually, a good many of them are already well on their way due to their support for app intents. App intents is a way for apps to make specific functions available outside the app itself. It's behind Spotlight search, widgets, and something very near and dear to my heart, shortcuts. So for many apps, the hard work has already been done to make them Apple Intelligence compatible. With writing in some form or another being a common task to all Apple devices used at work or school, writing tools will help you find just the right words virtually everywhere you can write. With enhanced language capabilities, you can summarize an entire meeting in seconds, get the short version of a long email chain, and focus only on what matters thanks to prioritized notifications. And being built into the OS means writing tools works with third-party apps too. iPad's first calculator app comes with a bonus. MathNotes gives you the ability to write out an equation with your Apple Pencil or keyboard on Mac or iPhone, and have Apple Intelligence provide the answer simply by writing an equal sign at the end. Complex calculation can be graphed, variables can be used, and even changed on the fly. Whether creating new visuals in the dedicated Image Playground app, turning text or your contacts into custom Genmoji in messages, or removing unwanted background items from photos, image generation options are everywhere with Apple Intelligence. You can even circle a rough sketch in the Notes app to have Apple Intelligence read the adjacent text and generate a relevant image. I'll just pause here to say that, as a former primary school IT manager, my thoughts quickly went to how do we turn this awesomeness off for assessments. Stay tuned for the second half of this video to learn about the MDM controls Apple have provided for exactly this reason. I should also add that only iPad Pro and Air support Apple Intelligence at launch, so most school iPads won't have this problem, at least until a new model comes out. So they're the big items for Apple Intelligence, but as we now look at operating systems, you'll see it's working behind the scenes too. But before we go platform by platform, a quick mention of a new universal app, Passwords. Apple Password Management has been freed from the Settings app and now exists on its own. With the emphasis on security in managed environments, this is a welcome development. It's user-controlled for now, but its existence gives me hope that one day we'll be able to manage it on their behalf for all work or school credentials. Whatever the future brings, there's now a native password manager on each of the Apple devices you manage that you can educate your users about using effectively. From Sonoma to Sequoia, we have now been introduced to the next Mac OS. iPhone and Mac is already a winning combo in business and with school staff, and iPhone mirroring for Mac takes it to an entirely new level. View and use your iPhone screen right on your Mac's display. Receive iPhone notification alongside Mac OS ones. Drag and drop files and other content, and even hear iPhone audio through your Mac speakers. All this completely wirelessly and while your iPhone remains locked, or, and this is definitely applicable to me, in standby mode on a MagSafe charger at your desk. Building on macOS Sonoma's efforts in this indispensable part of the remote work world we live in, Sequoia brings more features for your video calling. Presenter Preview takes the terror out of the share screen button by showing you what you'll share before you share it. And we now have native controls for background blurring and virtual backgrounds, powered by Apple's leading video segmentation. I'm keen to see how it handles my curls though. Moving on to iPadOS. There's an Apple Intelligence-powered feature just for iPad, SmartScript. Writing with Apple Pencil in Notes, SmartScript will learn your handwriting style and make sure even the most hastily scribbled text is legible by gently correcting it. You can paste text into a note in your own handwriting, edit and rearrange handwritten text as easily as typed, and more. We covered it earlier, but having played with betas already, I just want to confirm that Math Notes on an iPad with Apple Pencil is probably the ideal way to use such amazing new capabilities. FaceTime SharePlay abilities now include the ability to draw on the other caller's screen and, with their permission, actually take control of the device. More sophisticated alternatives may be available to complex organisations, but in simpler environments, this functionality will make a real difference. But given that the Venn diagram of this video's target audience and people who provide free tech support to family and friends is basically just a circle, this feature will probably help out more at home than at work. This next feature is sure to stir strong feelings in the admin community: hiding and locking apps. Users will now have the ability to lock an app requiring Face or Touch ID authentication to use it. If necessary, users can also hide an app, removing it from the home screen and main app library views, only to be found in the Hidden Apps folder of App Library. Hiding an app also prevents any of its data being shown in Spotlight search or other areas of the OS. And now, onto device management updates. Managed Apple IDs are no more. We now have managed Apple accounts. The same is true for the personal versions. The Apple ID is no longer a thing. They're just Apple accounts. Nice and logical. With all the benefits your users get from managed Apple accounts with federated authentication, it's great to see these changes removing some of the last potential blockers. No fix yet though for the seemingly universal issue of principals and C-suite types blocking federation efforts thanks to their own missteps in this area. Any managed Apple account with managed device privileges can now remove activation lock from organisation-owned devices. The current controls for activation lock via MDM have made this a less frequent issue, but this new ability effectively removes any activation lock-related issues for your entire fleet. With Apple Watch and Apple Vision Pro getting management abilities in the last year, this is now enhanced with Apple School Manager and Apple Business Manager visibility. This allows both device types to benefit from the activation lock controls we just covered and enables automated device enrolment for Apple Vision Pro. And there are enhancements to roster data syncing for ASM, so it's even easier to get all the benefits of having this data available to your MDM and services like Classroom. Apple continued to transition more management features into declarative device management, and now software update for Mac, iPad and iPhone is entirely DDM. We highly recommend you prioritise learning the ins and outs of the new way of updating your devices. It's now possible to manage beta testing with MDM. Thoroughly testing betas in your environment before production release is a key element of successful Apple management, and it's now easier than ever. Supporting remote enrolment, version handling, status reports, and token-based device addition, there's basically nothing for your testers to do except, well, test. MDM vendors will be able to include access to a new Apps and Books API to provide more information on your Apple School or Business Manager content. And finally, for our cross-platform features, the controls for AI functionality I referred to earlier. Math Notes, SmartScript, Image Playground and writing tools will have both MDM and assessment mode controls to prevent undesired use in your environment. Having this flexibility in education particularly will enable Apple Intelligence to assist with instruction and learning, but not interfere when students need to demonstrate their understanding. I mean, NAPLAN is already enough of a chore. Now to macOS. Sequoia will bring more security options at enrolment with support for both passkeys and physical security keys like YubiKeys. Extensible SSO with Kerberos also gets new keys for both. Platform SSO expands to require authentication for File Vault, the lock screen and the login window, and provides the ability to configure authentication via Touch ID or Apple Watch to ensure the smoothest user experience. And you can now configure grace periods for offline authentication, no longer depending on live access to your IDP. Access to external or network drives can now be enforced by MDM, allowing or blocking access and limiting mounting to read-only drives. Bringing a well-known mobile feature to the Mac, a third-party app or agent must now receive user permission to interact with devices on the local network. Also coming to Mac from mobile are two setup assistant controls, adding the welcome screen to skippable items and now supporting the skip setup items payload. Macs running as virtual machines can now sign into iCloud, providing access to associated services for a better testing experience, and Mac VMs can now also use the Erase All Contents and Settings command. System Settings Profile section has been renamed to MDM. Not exactly an issue admins have been complaining about, but undeniably more logical. And finally for Mac, battery health is now a reported status item for Apple Silicon. Let's now look at iPadOS. It's worth noting that while it isn't a major focus for this video, the majority of the features we'll discuss also apply to iOS. As mentioned when introducing the features, admins can rest assured that there are MDM controls to govern hiding and locking apps. We'll be able to control a user's ability to lock or hide on a per app basis, or globally disable hiding and locking for all apps on supervised devices. For user enrolment, only managed apps are reported to MDM as hidden. However, with device enrolment, hidden apps are reported to MDM as part of all installed apps. If your organization's devices are personally enabled, we would strongly urge you to pay close attention to these settings. We also learned more about in-house app management, eSIM configurations, private cellular payloads, and tweaks to stolen device protections, but we only have so much time. We'll now look at two Edu-specific features. The Classroom utility is an indispensable tool when learning and teaching with Apple devices, and it's getting more flexible. Teachers with managed Apple accounts will now be able to create and join unmanaged classes, in addition to those provided by MDM. And the best part is, you don't have to wait until the new OSs arrive. This functionality comes with iPadOS 17.4 and macOS 14.4, both of which were released in recent months. And it'll now be possible for the developers of iPad assessment apps to authorize additional apps for use during assessment, providing more flexibility for students. Similar to the Classroom updates, we won't have to wait months for this to appear in new OS versions, just until the soon-to-be-released iPadOS 17.6. We're at 17.5.1 at time of recording, so it can't be too far away. While a smaller portion of most Apple device fleets, the Apple TV is a key device for many corporate and educational environments. Definitely an under-the-bonnet item, AirPlay receivers like Apple TV will no longer advertise their MAC address. Make sure this isn't part of your existing configurations. Other AirPlay payload changes include the Allow list now accepting device names, and Mac support for the device name password linking like mobile OSs have enjoyed for a while now. As I mentioned before, shortcuts is a subject near and dear to my own heart, and to be honest, I barely recovered from last year's configurator announcements. We'll soon be able to view more information on the status of shortcuts running on connected devices, be notified of any errors, and see the progress of each action in the Shortcuts app itself. And we get 4 new actions for shortcuts, 2 of which we'll look at briefly. Install documents to deploy files and documents to supported apps, and wait until charge prevents a shortcut from completing until the device has reached a specified charge level, something that will no doubt prevent shift workers using shared devices from grabbing an iPad that's about to die. And that brings us to a close. This is also a time when some MDMs don't measure up as well as others, so I'd encourage you to investigate. A, if your solution will offer support for new OSs at launch, and B, if they'll support new functionality ahead of launch to make your testing easier. We've been MDM agnostic up till now, but I will say one of the things that makes us love our biggest MDM partner, Jamf, as much as we do, is as soon as possible support for the next generation of OSs, often well ahead of release. This is just one of the reasons they're the best-in-class solution for managing and securing Apple devices at school or work. As always, contact your Compnow account manager or drop a line to info@compnow.com.au to discuss how we can support your Apple environment. Cheers.